Welcome to the Fourth Step Podcast. On each episode, we interview recovering addicts and learn their story with addiction. Through exploring personal journeys, we get a glimpse of the depths addicts fall to and their path in recovery. We hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Fourth Step Podcast. My name is Kevin, and I am an addict.
Hello, Kevin.
Kevin.
How we go. And with us is our co-host,
Josh, addict.
Hi, Josh.
Hello.
Today we have a special episode near and dear to my heart. We are interviewing the Vickies.
That's what we need to call the episode too, the Vickies.
Yeah, it does sound catchy. The Vickies. You like it? So the Vickies are our friend Vicki M, who is the wife of my past sponsor, and Vicki B, who is Vicki M's best friend, and Vicki B's husband, Steve, was my sponsor, Steve's best friend. I know we just confused the shit out of everybody.
Vickies and Steves.
Yeah, so we'll just go from there. So I'm going to say Vicki B and then Vicki M when we ask questions, okay?
I'm going to forget to do that, and I'll just say Vicki, and both of you will get confused and not know who I'm talking to.
Yeah, and we're going to flow. So if you can just say, your clean date and how many years? Vicki B, okay. If I look at you.
Sure. I'm Vicki, an addict. My clean date is January 20th, 1983.
Nice. Vicki
And
M.
I'm Vicki M. My clean date is January 12th, 1981, and I have 44 years.
Sweet.
Thank you guys for doing this today.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Grateful.
Not only are you like heavy hitters in the recovery community out here. Oh, by the way, we're on location in San Jose in the Bay Area, California.
Thanks for hosting as well.
Right.
You're welcome.
Grateful.
If listeners remember, we did an episode with Steve M, and we talked a lot about his cancer. He has passed, and we did an episode with Ray and myself, two sponsees of Steve. And where we're at right now is the kitchen table in Steve and Vicki's house that I spent, 15 years at doing step work. And
has the table changed, or has it been
this
physical table?
I cried the last time we walked. I walked in, and it was a different table, and I cried.
How long ago did it change?
Table.
When did you guys get a new table?
Like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
What was the reason for the upgrade, or was it a color thing, or the table was old, or?
It was old. It was scratched up and it was old. It was black.
And the stains on it, those were my tears. And you threw them away, Vicki.
No, I gave them to a family of addicts.
Okay. Oh, good.
Recovering addicts.
Oh, good.
This one does. I can imagine this comparable if it was black. Aesthetically, it fits better in here. This one does for sure.
Well, anyways, we're at the kitchen table.
See what I said? I'll go off on random.
Yeah, random. Yeah. All right, so in the very beginning, do you remember anything in your childhood that tied your feelings to like the first time you got loaded? Like we asked if there was like trauma or abuse or anything like that. But what led you into obsessive compulsive behaviors?
Well,
Vicki
first of
B.
all, I just want to say that I'm really emotional right now.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You take as much time as you want. You want to pass?
No, so I'm just really emotional. This is a really special time, and through my journaling this morning, we spent a lot of years, every year, doing Super Bowls together. And last year was our last year with my compadre, and we had a lot of fun, So back to the question. What led me to using? Is that what the question is?
Yeah, did you have something in childhood that triggered the feelings wanting to get covered up?
Actually, you know what? I always want to say my childhood. Well, first of all, let me just say I had 5 brothers and myself. And I came from a family that, big Mexican family that, I think of all the family, we had a lot of fun as kids, my cousins and my grandma and, all that stuff was a lot of fun. We were farm workers and it was good. But yeah, there was some trauma, but I don't know that led me to my using. I think that it was just a thing to do. I mean, I don't think I don't blame my family for me using. I don't blame my mom for me using. Did I feel less loved? Yeah, I did, but I don't blame them. I think it was just a thing that was happening.
Did you blame them early on, and like have you worked through that and realized that wasn't the case, or like is it hindsight you don't blame them? Is what I'm asking.
No, I don't think I've ever blamed them. I just think I've been that person that just kind of like here we are, so let's do it.
What do you mean by like you felt less loved?
Well, you know what? I felt less loved because like there was 6 of us, and I was the only girl, out of 5 brothers.
You would
and
think
I was
you would be spoiled.
You'd think I would, and I guess maybe if I think about it a little bit more, there was a specialty where I had my own room, out of the 6 of us. There was 3-bedroom house, and my 5 brothers were in one room, and I had my own room. But
that makes sense.
Yeah, but that was that was the only thing. So yeah, so that's how I felt. And then I felt like as we were growing up and stuff, and as I got older, my mom, she would have like dinners at the house, and she wouldn't invite me. She didn't invite me, but then when I found out about it, she said, "Well, you never need an invitation here, But all my brothers knew,
Yeah.
Or or the other thing was that, I came up in that family where the woman did everything for the man, So I was expected to do, serve my brothers and. That's the way it was.
This traditional Mexican family.
Yeah, traditional. And you know what? I'm still like that with my kids. Like I'll serve my sons. I'm still like that.
I would imagine that a lot of that is just out of love.
Now it is. But my husband did. He really helped me change that.
Good.
He really did. He was. He could do for himself. And I was really happy.
Yeah, he was a special man.
Yeah, he was.
Sad to lose him, but man, what a cool guy. What about you, Mrs. M? That you're like was there? I know there was shit in your childhood growing up.
Are you you seem like maybe you're blending 2 of the questions that you would normally ask, like trauma and first time using together?
Getting there, yeah.
Okay, cool. I just question.
Like what got you to that point? Was there something really traumatic?
No. Not at all. I don't think that I can recall or I ever, like Vicki was saying about blaming anybody or anything. I grew up in your typical Irish Catholic family. I mean, stereotyped. I went to a Catholic school. My dad was a police on the police reserve. He had he was a Teamster. No, I just liked the way it made me feel. I started with alcohol young. My parents were party goers, but they were not.
How old were you think?
Probably 10
Yeah,
when I started
How old were you?
drinking.
Drinking like probably in my teens, like late teens.
So before 20, or you guys were still kids.
Oh, yeah.
Still kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was drinking because my family was drinking. It was a big thing, any kind of a Catholic holiday or whatever, or my dad loved to play bartender.
I was just going to say, I don't think Irish Catholics need an excuse to drink.
No, my dad loved playing bartender.
Yeah.
So he would like, what do you want? And then he'd put you want a little bit of this? Oh, okay. He didn't know what he was doing. It was back in the 50s, early 60s, and so, and then of course I graduated, to other drugs.
Harder stuff. When did that start?
Shit. It was probably, I had to have been 14. And I say that because I got sent away by the time I was 15. But at 14, when I was 13, we moved from Millbrae to Mountain View. And a guy that I had known, Brian, moved also from Millbrae, and he was already shooting speed. And I had a crush on him. And we were at this guy's house, and he was shooting up. And I thought, I want some. And I was young. And I put my arm out, and that was it.
Yeah, but before that, you didn't have like a really serious obsessive compulsive desire to change the way you feel?
I think looking in hindsight,
Yeah.
I don't think I felt as pretty or smart or enough, all those things, because my mom would, and teachers and stuff would say, why can't you be like your sisters?
Yeah.
And I was the clown in the classroom. I was always in the hallway more than I was in the classroom.
So
And
shooting up for the first time changed that?
Yeah, I was like in the cool group right when I had moved, because that was, I guess, traumatic for me to move at that age.
Yeah.
And I had to fit in, and I wasn't fitting in. Back then, they had the surfers and the greasers, and I wanted to be neutral. It was very important for me, and it seemed like the neutral people were the drug addicts, and I was very comfortable.
It's a comfortable place. Do you remember like that first time where it changed to obsessive compulsive need to get loaded?
Well, I was, because I started with drinking and smoking weed and, acid and, all those other things. But I think like once I started shooting heroin, I never wanted to stop because I was afraid to get sick, So, I mean, I never knew what sick was other than what
People told you?
well, or what you used to see
Or
on
you've
TV.
seen it, yeah.
You see it on TV, like, like that it would be crazy. Or, my brother, I'd see my brother,
Oh, really?
Yeah, so, but yeah, I never wanted to stop, Of course, I had to do other things to make that happen.
When the first time like loaded, do you remember how that went for you?
Yeah, you know what? I do.
Specifically with heroin.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm going to talk about, the heroin. It was a trip because I had this boyfriend and he was a heroin addict, and so like I wanted to do what he did, but he didn't want to. He didn't want to turn me on. He just didn't, But he ended up, and he said I was going to regret it. But I used to sell heroin before I started using it, and my cousin was my connection. And so, anyways, I got with this dude, and I was like, oh wow, of course I got sick right away. I mean, when I got, when you fix, and I just started throwing up. That like that was it. But I didn't care. I mean, I was just like, oof, gone. Like it took everything away, whatever everything was at that point, and then I just never wanted to stop. I mean. The dragon was lit. It was on fire. So
That's pretty heavy first time though.
yeah, it was. So I didn't want to stop.
You guys were both young, shooting up, young age.
Yeah, I think she was younger than I was because I didn't really start using heroin until I was like 19 or something.
Okay.
Still a teenager.
And you were 13, you said? 14, 13?
13, but I got sent away.
When you say you got sent away, what does that mean?
I was in and out of juvenile hall probably a minimum of 6 times. So back then they would make you a ward of the court. Even though I came from a big family, they didn't know what to do with us young addicts. They didn't even label us as young addicts.
Incorrigible.
No, uncontrollable.
Yeah.
I was labeled uncontrollable, and I was made a ward of the court. So probably the 6th or 7th time when I went, they said that they were going to either send me to a foster home, YA, or to the girls' ranch, or this place in San Francisco that was called Good Shepherd. It was like...
This is the San Francisco option?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was on Cambridge Avenue, no longer there, but...
Cambridge Avenue is no longer there, or the place you got sent
The
to?
place I was sent to is no longer there.
They just wiped out the street. Fuck
No.
this.
Who knows, dude?
Yeah.
It was bad. It was, I believe there was like, I don't know, maybe 60 of us, and 3/4 of the population were girls from Santa Clara County.
So was it home for wayward girls or
Yeah,
something?
pretty much. And it was. It had.
Well,
they had
that's what
nuns. They had nuns then there.
I'm from that time period too.
Yeah, nuns and lay people. Regular people.
What does lay mean?
Oh, they used to
just
call them
like-
layman when you worked like for the church, but you weren't ordained a priest or a nun.
Yeah.
Like an apprentice?
No,
Just a
no,
helper.
you were able to.
Okay.
Yeah, helper.
Just like a volunteer church helper.
Yeah, but
Okay.
you didn't take that next step to become a nun or a priest.
Okay.
But you were devoted, and so
So this was a Catholic place then?
it was Catholic based, but you didn't have to be Catholic to go there.
Okay.
That's for sure. Because there was all kinds of girls.
Oh, was there some funny stuff going on there?
Oh yeah, yeah. There were. I mean, there were girls that were hookers already, like at 13, because their mom was hookers. There was a gal there that tried to kill her mom with a hammer when she was taking a nap. There was a girl there who got in a car accident, ran into a police car. I mean, just bizarre stuff. And there was I, just party girl, did not get why I was sent
You were
there.
hanging out with attempted murderers and
Yeah,
hookers.
stuff like that. Yeah, and I
good
wasn't
place to
even
be.
there. I wasn't even there yet.
Yet.
Yeah, I wasn't there yet. But yeah, that's a whole nother
Story.
chapter.
I'm interested about these. Is there any, before we just blow past that, I experienced something similar as a kid as well, and so I am kind of curious. Is there any, excuse me, any story or experience that you remember from there that like stands out? Like anything crazy that happened while you were there that like?
A lot of girls were trying to kill themselves. We were like mandated. They were cottages, and they were all owned by somebody, wealthy man in San Francisco. But we were mandated like to either everybody be downstairs in the cottage or upstairs in the cottage, and there was like 6 cottages, and because there were so many suicides, and myself and 2 other girls used to intimidate some of the girls to take their pills. So we were popping pills. I don't know what I was taking, but we were popping pills when we were in there. But you'd literally be sitting down, which was scary because you'd hear a glass break or something upstairs, and you knew somebody was up there trying to slit their wrist or something, and then you'd see the ambulance. And it happened like probably a couple times a month, so...
A consistent stream of attempted
Yeah.
suicides or suicide.
And then-
Did anybody die? while you
No,
were there?
not when I was
So
there.
all attempted?
Yeah, and there was one nun there, a nun that was in charge of our cottage.
So was it all female staff?
Yeah, all female staff. We wore uniforms, but it was kind of high end. They had a swimming pool and they had a theater.
Wow.
Yeah, it just kind of. So when I tell people where I went, and I go, yeah, it had a theater and it had a swimming pool.
And it had a bunch of girls trying to commit suicide.
Yeah.
So lots of fun.
Oh God, yeah.
No, it wasn't fun.
No,
And they let us smoke, which they used to do 1 pack of Cools and 1 pack of Marlboros down the side of the. It was just a strange place to be there. And I thought, when I got there, I was going to be there for 6 months max. And they, of course, took you to the infirmary.
Uh-huh.
And the doctor came in once a week to check the new girls out, make sure they're not pregnant or have any diseases or anything. And I remember standing there, and I remember the girls telling me that nobody leaves here until you're 18 or you graduate. And I remember thinking, what? I
a
got
long
like
time.
tricked. I got tricked. I would have never walked up those steps and gone, and I would have ran away. Because I ran away a lot.
experience I had too. Same thing.
Yeah, I ran
Got
away
tricked.
a lot. It was nothing for me to leave the house and not come home for a week or 2 weeks.
I didn't get tricked. I got
You got kidnapped.
Transports came and got me. But when I got there, they said, you either graduate or you turn 18 and sign out. Yeah, I experienced the same thing. Yeah. You were saying something about there was a staff member there.
Oh yeah, Sister Anita. Anyway, I always
Anita?
thought Anita. I always thought something was off about her. I didn't like the way she looked at the girls, looked at me. Something, just something was off. Mm-hmm. And come to find out, they snuck her away at night, like in the middle of the night. One day we woke up and she wasn't there. They took her and transferred. Something must
Sister
have happened.
Anita?
Yeah. And what they found was a lot of empty liquor bottles and empty pill containers and stuff in her room. So, I mean, the staff was not, it was like the leftover nuns where they didn't know where to put them.
Oh, no, really?
But just a nutty
So she was
staff.
probably one of us back then.
Yeah.
Island of Misfit Toys, just completely.
Yeah, it was just a nutty staff. And then they had,
Fucked up people trying to help fucked up people.
Yeah, they had a Dr. Klung. He was a psychologist who they used us as guinea pigs. There was a lot of different stuff going on. Like they'd say, okay, just scream.
Yeah.
Scream. That's supposed to help you get over I don't know what. And they'd ask you a series of questions. And I just remember turning really hard in there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I do.
F you. I'm not telling you nothing. You guys are so smart.
Yeah.
And I followed that on into my adult, very rebellious.
Did you ever, Vicky B, did you ever get put in placement or anything? Or you just...
Oh, no. I went to juvenile and jail, but no, I didn't. But I like Vicky's story about that therapist because she used to always say, and that blind motherfucker or whatever.
That was after.
Oh, okay. It was after with
Yeah.
the blind one. Yeah. But no, I was in juvenile and went to jail. And
Juvenile Hall?
yeah, juvenile hall.
Was it around San Jose?
Yeah, I was here in San Jose.
So you guys are both pretty much originally from here?
She's from
Bay
Mountain
Area.
View.
I grew up in Millbrae and then moved to Mountain View. And then I met my love of my life and moved to San Jose, which I never said I would move here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. Is
Look
like,
at you now.
Yeah, I know.
when I was 15, I left home and became a ward of the court. And
Yeah.
so like I tuned in when you said that, and then you said juvenile hall, and that's like where I spent the next few years in juvenile hall, in and out to different placements, and so I can relate a lot
Yeah,
to
I
my
was a ward of
stories.
the court too.
That was a similar
didn't-
story, all of us,
They
really.
didn't know what to do with.
No.
They still don't know what to do with.
I
us.
remember when you were talking about labels, my label on my folder was habitual runner.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what I was labeled at because they would put me in a group home and I'd run away. And put me in a group home and I'd run away and run away. And I just lived on the streets. So, Vicky B, did you have like part of like you getting loaded? Was there any parts of that was centered around like shame or guilt? Or do you remember
I had
having
a-
shame and guilt when you got here?
I had a lot of shame and guilt. Yeah, I had a lot of shame and guilt because, like I was the only girl. I started having kids really young. I had
How
my
old were
first
you?
child when I was 14.
14.
Had 3 children by the time I was 19.
Holy
and,
shit.
Yeah. And
Oh
so,
my God.
and so that was, and then I was the oldest. My mom had
Oh, geez, the-
10. My mom had 10. There was 10 siblings in her family, and so my mom was the oldest, and so I was the oldest. Niece, granddaughter, and so I was looked at like a whore.
Oh, I was hoping you were going to say like, a mother and caretaker.
That's where I thought I was going
no,
to.
no,
Yeah.
because back in that day, you just didn't have kids like that. That didn't happen. You
were
know.
shamed.
Yeah, you were shamed, and they used to blame my mom. I remember one day I heard my aunts talking about, oh, if Nellie would have done this, and that shouldn't have happened, and but it happened,
Yeah.
And my mom was she was supportive, at first she wanted me to give my first child away and for adoption, but I didn't, I didn't, and but what happened is, so since I was the oldest, the rest of the family kind of, followed suit.
They started having babies?
Well, they started, getting into drugs and living a different lifestyle. Not that I was that example for them, but life just showed up for them. Not all of them, but but now it's very different. My cousins are just so proud of me. My brothers were very proud of me.
Well,
And,
they should be.
Yeah, and I have a cousin that's in recovery here with me, and
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, and then my younger cousins, I remember I was talking to one of my little cousins one time, and she said, "Oh yeah, I used to hear those stories,"
Of you?
Yeah, and I thought like, what did you
You're
hear?
famous.
So, but Narcotics Anonymous has definitely changed my life, so.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it is.
What about you, Mrs. M?
Well, that was back in the 60s and 70s.
Shame and guilt?
Oh, yeah. I remember girls getting sent away or how they would I only went to school for like 6 months, so I can't have a big recollection of what they did. But a lot of girls were getting pregnant back there and they were sending them away or their babies were taken away from them.
When you said only went to school for 6 months, what?
I got kicked out of the school district.
So how old were
They
you?
said they said I was a nuisance. They wouldn't even let me go to the continuation class.
How old were you?
Same.
I was like 13, 14.
And you got kicked out of the school district?
Uh-huh.
I lasted a month at my high school and got kicked out to the continuation school, got kicked out of that continuation school. And then eventually just got shipped off too.
That's funny. I got kicked out of continuation school too.
Yeah.
They don't like it when you
I didn't
sell
even get
LSD in
in.
the hallway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was like, dude,
They
you can't
didn't-
sell it.
I didn't even get to go.
Oh,
They said I was going to
yeah, that's messed up.
be disruptive. I remember the look on my mom's face. She was pulling her hair out, poor mom. She didn't know what to do with me.
Yeah.
Because I was nice. I wasn't like a real, before I went away, I wasn't a hard ass or anything. I was just like, what is everybody so upset? So I didn't come home last night. What's the big deal?
So what was your shame and guilt over? Or did you have any?
I didn't have any shame and guilt until I got to until I was working the streets. I didn't have any shame and guilt, really.
When did that happen?
Oh.
Did you got out of the home at 18? You stayed till you're 18?
Actually, I graduated in June. 3 months before I was 18. I was pregnant by the time I was 18. Didn't have the
You
child.
got out 3 months before you're 18, and then by the time you turned 18, you were pregnant?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So within that
Yeah.
within that 3 months,
I'm free!
Yeah, we said we were going camping.
it all went to hell after 3 months.
Yeah, well, after you're away for like 3 years, almost 3 years.
at a
all my
Catholic
friends-
institution.
Well, they didn't really look. They just knew it was a closed institution. I mean, there was fences and barbed wire and stuff.
Oh,
You
no
didn't-
way.
Yeah, it wasn't.
You were locked down.
Yeah, but when I got home, all my little girlfriends, the few that I had left, their parents did not want them hanging out with me. I was the Murphy girl that was sent away, so she must be really.
You blame them?
No.
I mean, I think about my kids now and how I
No, because there were some
react.
kids that my son brought home, and I just thought, whoa. But
Right.
being where I was, I thought, well, give them a chance, let them have dinner with us or something. But I didn't want them to be besties with them because they, when you hang out with people that are in trouble, you usually end up getting
Well,
in trouble.
we recognize it in others right away. Usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you if your shame and guilt showed up for you, was it around turning tricks?
Yeah. Yeah. Because,
You don't seem to
I
have a
tried
problem
to-
talking about it now. Is that like your
no, and I
way?
didn't really ever have it really, it depends on who I'm talking to about it.
Yeah.
How far after 18 did it start? Like the progression of
21. I had to been, no, I only did it for like 4 years, 5 years.
so you did not have the kid when you
It
got
sounds so funny. I only did it. You know what I mean? That's a long time. It's a lot of guys.
yeah.
I could not imagine.
So you got pregnant at 18 and you did have that kid or didn't have that kid?
Did not. And my mom didn't talk to me for 3 days. And the father of that child, the night he was supposed to come over and talk to my parents about what we were going to do, he got busted for sales of cocaine. And he called from jail. And I remember my mom coming into my bed, slamming the door open like, he's on the phone, collect call.
Right.
He's on the phone. And my little girlfriend, Marcy, and we just started busting up giggling because I used to giggle when I used to get nervous. And I was like, oh, shoot, he's busted? What am I going to do now? Well, I went on with my plans, but
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one.
So
That you know what though? I mean, it back then in my head, my little world, it seemed pretty common. You know, it was really common for everybody's old man to get busted, go away. You get pregnant, you not have the kid or have the kid taken away. It was in that little pocket of time between 1971 and late 70s. It was very normal. I mean, in my world,
No,
it was.
I remember
In
those
society,
times.
I don't know. It just was.
And you have any memories of? Well, you talked about like being the girl and the shame and the guilt and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
but I
Was there
had a
any-
lot of shame after like that, you know, because I already had the 3 kids, and then I got married to the father of my 2 youngest sons, you know, and even my daughter's dad, you know, was just like my son's father used to say, nobody's gonna want you. You got 3 kids. You know, you look like a whore. I mean, he just shamed me.
So he was really
bad.
abusive?
Yeah, very abusive. You know.
Was he
And-
physically
That's rough.
abusive?
Pardon?
Physically abusive too, or just verbally?
Verbally and emotionally.
Emotionally,
you know. Yeah. So there was a lot of shame and guilt there, and then I just built a lot of shame and guilt within myself. You know, because I really started believing or thinking that that's
Oh, yeah,
truly
yeah.
who I was. You know, I was really trapped. You know, the prisoner of self is what we call it. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So yeah, so that and then like my and I was still young. I mean, I was only 19. You know, so
Wait-
still going to high school.
Yeah.
You know,
So some of that shame and guilt, you can look back now and see like your parents or family would say to you like you're no good, or, you know.
Yeah.
And
I don't think
feed
that
you
my
all that negative
I don't
stuff?
think that my mom used to say that. Maybe she thought that.
Yeah.
But I remember one time my brother said that they didn't want me to. Well, my brother said he didn't want me to, hang around or be around his wife. Like like
you might influence her.
I might. Yeah. I mean, I was like, I was blown away. It hurts my heart now.
Yeah.
But or like my mom would say, or one day she said, "You might have a sex problem," But I think that like so my mom, she had 6 kids and 3 different daddies, and that's the picture
And
that was
she's saying
painted.
that you might have a sex problem?
Yeah. So, I believe that the picture that was painted to me is the picture that I followed.
Your mom, yeah.
Yeah, and but then if I look at it now, that's not the picture. Like, I mean, that's a picture. This is who I am. But my kids haven't followed that. Thank you,
You
God.
broke the chain,
Yes,
or
broke
the chain
chain.
was broken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So grateful for that. But I've been here for 42 years, so I've been a good example.
When you say here, I just want listeners to know that you've been clean for 42 years.
I've been clean for 42 years. Yes, God's good graces. For
You
sure.
have 44, right? Dude, we're sitting with some heavy hitters right here.
you're what? You got 37,
38.
38. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in the room with 120 years of clean time right now.
Yeah,
That's pretty intense.
it is. So now getting into where we're loaded all the time. We're shooting dope. Both of you seem to follow that similar path, right? Just go on and shoot dope until the very end. So what was the end for you, Vicki?
The end for me was, I just did all the things that we do to get more. More was always better for me, and sometimes it still is. But anyways, the end for me was, I walked into, it was some really old trick, but he was so. I mean, God's good graces, really. But I walked into the recovery house, I walked into the recovery house again, and
I'm sorry, did you say it was because of a trick?
no, I mean, he's the one that took me to the recovery house. you
Yeah.
know, But yes, I did say a trick. you know. But, you know, so I did those things. And I remember like another time when I was like, and I mean, I used to be out on the street, and then I remember this guy, God, he was there with me, and he would, you know, he would say, like, we'd be walking down the street, and he'd say, carne fresca, you know, like I just started tricking at that time.
Yeah.
And so carne fresca means fresh meat. And I'm like, what the fuck? You know, but I was all proud. Yeah, you know, so stupid. But anyway, so that, you know, that was like the beginning and the end. But what happened for me is I had gotten busted and I went to jail again. Didn't think I was ever going to get my kids back, you know. I had already settled for that, you know, thought that maybe at some point, if they had kids, maybe they would let me touch their kids, maybe. And
That's heavy.
yeah, it is really heavy. And it's really beautiful, you know. So what happened is, you know, I decided, you know, I got out of jail in November, and in January, I called the recovery house, see if I can get in, and I came in. They said, don't come in loaded, but of course I did, you know. And well, actually, I was kind of bunk. The last shot was bunk. So I come into the recovery house and I asked for my girlfriend, you know. Hey, I hadn't seen her for 2 years because I met her in the recovery house, you know, previously. And I asked her, I said, has anybody heard from Vicki Murphy? And they said, yeah, she has 2 years. I go, what do you mean she has 2 years? What? I go, oh my God.
So you guys knew each other on the street before getting clean?
We met each other briefly
At a
one of the
recovery
times
house?
that we were both in there. Yeah, briefly. She was on
so-
her way out because she got kicked out.
Got it,
She got
okay.
kicked
So
out.
two
And
2 years
years
prior to
back,
that.
you
Yeah,
met.
and then we were both in there again, and we ended up being roommates. Totally different, but the same. We had the same humor and the same desire to stay clean.
What a trip. You guys have literally
so-
been together since you got clean.
Yeah.
Since the beginning.
Yeah, and
Fuck.
and when
long
she
time.
last time she went to recovery house, she called me, and I think to buy some drugs because I wasn't clean yet, but we both weren't in the recovery house.
You were clean.
Oh, it's so much better that
No,
we
I
did them
was-
at the same time.
I wasn't clean when I was with.
Yeah.
I was clean.
Oh, when I went to your house, no.
To get dope.
Yeah, you were pregnant.
Yeah, I was
Oh.
pregnant when I was
Yeah.
using for
Eating
4
oranges.
months. Yeah.
So that time when you got to the recovery house, that was like the end.
That
That was the end
after.
for me, but she was clean already.
Yeah.
And she called me before somewhere in that year and a half, 2 year period, year and a half, I guess. She called me, and I said that she wanted to ride. She wanted to ride to the connection, and I said I'll drive you, but because I was new,
You were
and
still
it was
fresh.
different, and
Yeah,
the fellowship wasn't as big or knowledgeable with any experience. I tell you. So I thought, well, I'll take her to the connection, but first I'm going to take her to a meeting. She's going to go to a meeting with me, and I'm going to miraculously get her clean. It didn't work. It didn't work.
But
That
she
plan
did
didn't
take
work.
me to the connections.
I did. I knew the guy, and I knew the guy. And they say not to go to slippery places. I knew it was David B. And I knew who it was and everything. I mean, I was really slippery. Well, I was using. I mean, not using. When I was first clean, I was living with a using addict.
Oh, okay. Damn. That's trippy.
So
Yeah.
you dropped her off. She got out. One got loaded. You separated. You stayed clean. Okay. And
Yeah, she stayed clean, and
And then
then-
you have 40 and you got 44.
No,
correct?
she's got
42.
So that slip didn't last long then.
No, it didn't. You know, it didn't. But when I came back, I was so happy that she was here, and we just like connected up.
Looking
Like,
back, do you see or feel that that she was a big catalyst for you staying?
absolutely, absolutely.
In my thought process, I was like, yeah, that would keep me clean.
Yeah, absolutely. She was there then, and she's still here now.
Yeah.
Always.
We learned to have fun together.
Yeah.
Because we would be so scared to go to a recovery birthday party, and we literally would be up against the wall with our coffee cups.
Shaking?
Not knowing how to talk or walk or do anything. But we just would do it together. We just did it, and with practice. And then our sponsor, well, actually, a counselor, she was a counselor, Ellie, said, I want you guys to just call each other. And I thought, what do I, she doesn't have anything, what am I going to call her for? And because really I was uncomfortable. So I would call and say, hi, how are you? What are you doing today? Be all cordial and polite. And then I'd hang up and in my head would think, what was that about? It was just
a part
but
of the first.
we practiced and did it to each other. Then she'd call me and I'd call her.
And every time that we hung up in those early times, we would always say, thank you for calling.
Yeah.
You're so polite to each other. Yeah.
We didn't know. We didn't have like girlfriends. You know what I mean? I had a couple girlfriends, but not cling.
So when you first got clean, Vicky B, did you have fears? Like, what were your fears when you first got here?
Well, I got here a couple of times too early, so then I ran it for like 6 years in and out, because I felt like I hadn't done it enough. I hadn't done what other people did. I hung out with, they used to say you got to hang out with the winners. Well, I didn't know what the winners were, So, but when I got here the last time and stayed, I remember I was kicking in a habit. I was on the top bunk, and I remember that Madeline came in and she said, "So what's going to be different this time, Vicki?" And I looked at her and I thought, "Fuck you, bitch! Why are you asking me that? Why are you asking me that?" Because I didn't know what was going to be different.
So was that a fear?
What the fear was that, the fear for me was that, that I wouldn't be able to, the biggest thing in my life is my kids, my children. And the fear was that, maybe I wouldn't be able to reconnect with them if I didn't stay clean.
Oh.
If I didn't stay clean.
That makes sense.
So I had to work on that, because I'd been in and out. They had been with their grandparents, for the last 6-7 years, And then what happened is the grandparents said they couldn't take care of them no more. So they had to move in with their dad that lived in LA. And when they moved to LA, it was like them moving to Egypt, like they were here in San Jose. I could go see them, when I could, when I wanted to. But LA was, a little ways away for me. So, that was a fear, So, but, I was able to stay clean and show up and even, being in the recovery house and getting the little money, like I used to do, the card holders, I used to do ironing for them or wash their car or clean their house.
Isn't that crazy that we get arrested for that now, forcing clients to do labor for the employees?
Helpful.
Yeah, it was so helpful for us.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I had to do the same thing when I was locked up too.
I was so grateful for that. I was able to send little money, little monies that I had to my kids. And then I started learning about being a responsible parent, And then when I got my kids back, that was a big fear because I didn't know how to be a parent.
Did you rely on other people in the program to help you, teach you?
Well, I looked at them, but what I did, I remember telling my sons, we were at the apartment and we were all walking on eggshells, oh my goodness, And then I just had to say, you know what, I need you guys to help me. I need, it's like I'm a new mom. So I need you to help me. And that just broke the ice. This is your place. You eat what you want. You do what you want. This is our place, But, I had to say that to them because I didn't know how to be. They probably thought like, hey, she's always, said these things and then she's out and she's gone, So.
But you stayed.
I stayed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, it's been really good.
Nice. What about fears for you, Mrs. M?
I just had a fear that it was another chapter in my life that I was gonna use eventually. I just didn't
Really?
think I could do it. It just seemed so hard. It just seemed hard to me.
Any other fears besides that?
No, I just didn't. Well, I didn't want my son taken away from me. I was 4 months pregnant when I got clean. And I was on a 5-year suspended sentence, no driver's license, abscesses. And I was really scared because my mom put the fear in me. She says, I am not raising any more kids. And I believed her. And I think she probably did that purposely, to help me. Because she was a strong woman.
We're really lucky that there's a lifestyle change that happens in the program and not just like steps and a meeting that we go to. Like there's a promoted lifestyle, like implementing the principles, a support group, the new relationships, all the stuff. Because I think that's where you're saying like the fear of like this will just be another chapter. I imagine it became a lifestyle and all of a sudden like, oh, this is just what we do now. I mean,
And
that's
things are going really good.
yeah.
So I kind of wanted to touch on, and I hope this is not too painful, but I kind of wanted to touch on like the fears of losing your husbands. It was. I'm just going to say for me, I was had severe depression for a long time, and I was afraid that was going to overtake me. When we lost Mr. M. But you lost your husband, who was a friend of mine, that I cherish that relationship.
Well, before we get into that, I just want to say that, my girlfriend has always been a really beautiful example for me. And I remember one day I went over and Dustin was little. He was probably 2 or something. And we were at your mom's house and you were baking chicken for him and for his lunch. And I just thought, oh my God, that's just so wonderful. So she's always been a great teacher for me.
Yeah.
Forever. Yeah. But to get to the question, it was that, I was in a lot of denial, about. I mean, my friends
Steve
knew,
Bean.
I knew he was sick, but I remember one day he told me that he wanted to start giving his clothes away because he had lost a lot of weight. And I told him, don't give your clothes away. You're going to gain weight back. I had a lot of hope for him. And then I remember another day I brought home a pair of sweats for him. And he looked at me and he goes, you don't think I'm going to die, do you? I go, you're not going to die. I think things are going to get better.
Yeah.
And he died, right? And when he died, the last pair of pants he wore were those ones that I bought him. Those Adidas, and of course it was very painful. I was married to my husband for 35 years. He's the best thing that ever happened to me. And I had the support of, Steve and Vickie. I mean, I was here all the time. And then I would get in anybody's car. If they were going someplace, I would just get in, jump in the car, stay busy. But, the craziest thing, and I look at my girlfriend, is that I couldn't go to my home group, like for a year. I just couldn't. I couldn't receive all the overwhelming love that, that was there for me. So I went and sat in another 12-step meeting for a year.
So what was that fear about going to that meeting?
It was too much for me. It was too much for me to accept and to see. Because even like driving home, the same route that we used to take every, Tuesday, Friday, taking that route home everything was overwhelming. Going down the grocery aisle and getting the things that he liked, going to the mall, his favorite thing to do, it wasn't his favorite thing to do, but, I remember it was Timmy's birthday, and he wanted to go get Timmy a present, from, the mall. And I told him, well, we're not going to the mall because he was really weak at that time. I go, we're not going to go to the mall until, unless I'm going to, roll you in the wheelchair. And he said that, no, I'm not doing that. And I go, well, we're not going. Well, he wanted the gift so bad. He said, okay, we're going to go in the
Really?
wheelchair. So I wheeled him in there in his little wheelchair. And I remember when I was rolling him in, he looked at me and he goes, this is our first date in my wheelchair.
Aw.
It was so cute. He was so sweet, and that was the only time he used that wheelchair, because that was, Timmy's birthday's in November and he passed, December 8th, so, but my husband was very generous. He was very loving. He was, very kind, and he never wanted to take anything away from me, to the point where on December 7th, I took my sponsees out for Christmas dinner, and he was in the hospital. And so Steve and Vicki went to the hospital because they were going to release him. And I told him I'd cancel my dinner with my girls. He goes, no, that's important. You got to stay there. You got to be there. So Steve and Vicki were at the hospital with him, and they were going to bring him home. And then the doctor calls me, and he says he doesn't want to go home. I go, what do you mean? And he said, I shut it down, went to the hospital, and the next morning he passed, He knew, he knew. And the nurse, because he had fallen, Steve and Vicki said he had fallen. And that the nurse, when I went back in the, I think he passed like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I called Gompa, and, they ran down there. And the nurse said, she goes, when he fell, I knew that was the end, I mean, but I was like in denial, I used to call, he used to say he needed to take some medication. I didn't want to, I was afraid that, because I thought he was going to live. I was afraid, so I'd call Gompa and I'd call Claude and call Vicki, and they said, give him his medication. And I remember one day I was all brave, and I told the nurse, I go, we're addicts, and, we've been clean a long time, and, he can't take that medication. And she goes, okay, cancer hurts, and we're giving it to him. And I'm like, well, you are? So I was in complete denial for
No
a
kidding.
long time.
That's when I think about the first time I met you and Steve. I think it was like 25 years ago plus. We were all out to dinner, you and Steve and Vicki, and you had just lost your son. And I didn't know, and I asked you about your family, and and that came up, and I felt like such a ass. I didn't know, but you and Steve were the most gracious people ever. Just like, hey, it's okay, we're dealing with it. So did you think that like maybe prepped you?
You know what? I gotta say that when when that happened, so I always thought, well, you know what? I lost my son, and nothing is greater pain than that. Nothing is greater than pain. And you know what? I'm going to be okay. Yeah, if anything happens to Steve, I'm going to be fine. Which I am. But emotionally and love hurts, number one. And but you know what? It was the same. It was the same. I didn't think that I was going to be in as much pain or as much grief as I was for my son, because that's my kid.
Yeah, okay.
But my husband was my husband, and it was the same. And I remember one day after my son had passed, Steve came in. He was so happy, and with his little arm, he goes, "Baby, baby," and I go, "What?" And he goes, "I heard something today," and I said, "Well, what was it?" And he goes, "It said that grief is leftover love."
Yeah.
And I thought, fuck you, I don't want to hear that. But he's absolutely correct. Leftover love, and love hurts, So, but yeah, but I tried to fool myself and think, oh, it's, hey, a drop in the bucket, but it wasn't. It wasn't.
It's a hard one to go through.
Yeah.
Oh, did you have fears around Steve, Mrs. M? Your Steve? Like,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah, he's-
try to put myself, like try to feel empathy for you and a fear of being alone. Was that one of them?
Not so much being alone, being without him.
Yeah, I guess that's what I meant.
Because I
having him.
I can keep myself busy. I'm like can keep myself busy. I do when people like Vicky did. People ask me to go somewhere. Okay, pretty much most of the time I say yeah.
You did the same thing too when Steve passed. You didn't go to your home group.
I didn't go just for a short period, just maybe for the first 2 months until after the service.
Oh yeah.
Because it was I'd walk in and I'd look around and then everybody's face, I could feel their pain. It was just too much just to look at them.
Yeah.
But I always hear him telling me that you're one of the bravest, people I know. You're going to be fine. We'd sit in bed and do our morning meditations and stuff, and I'd start crying. And he'd go, "You're going to be fine, honey." And I go, "Yeah, I will, but I'm not going to like it. You're going to be gone." I go, "You're the one leaving." I go, "I'm going to be here with all of this, with the kids and everything." I go, "It's going to be hard. I'm going to miss you." But I knew he wasn't going to suffer anymore. And I knew in my heart that he was ready. I mean, he was a heavy hitter when it came to his faith, in prayer. I mean, I saw it. He was adamant about on his knees every morning. That wasn't just lip service when he shared a program.
I don't think he ever had lip service.
No, that's what he did. He walked his talk. I heard one of the nicest compliments about him, Claude. We were talking about different people in the program that impacted other people, and he shook his head and he said, "Vicky, Steve did not only shared, the program with others, he put the program on steroids." And I thought, I go, "You're right. You're right." I mean,
that's why I asked about one of the last questions I made sure we got out on the podcast when we did it with Steve was about the impact on the community, because I had met with him a few times to get coffee and I remember talking to him about all that stuff and just being like, wow, what the fuck? That's like such a huge commitment to recovery. And it's crazy. The impact is it's massive.
You never got to meet Steve B either, but I looked at him like the same. Like the two of them went everywhere together and did everything together, and they were
speakers. They could. They lived, studied. They were two of the most passionate people. I mean, there'll be others, and there were others before, but they were two of the most passionate people about Narcotics Anonymous. I mean, from their past lives, I mean, they were the biggest. I mean, all of us are, side by side about our past and how we recover, but their stories they were just amazing guys. There wasn't a mean bone in either one of them.
Yeah, Steve.
That early in recovery too, like I would imagine there was probably a lot of pioneering going on, like just trying to figure out how to make it work and how the program was going to work. And
83 was like the tip of the iceberg. I came in 81 and people were still fumbling around. But when the two Steves arrived, they got noticed. It was Steve B and Steve M, and then they both got court liaison jobs.
Yeah.
They both worked in the recovery houses, CAPS and Pathways, and they were like on, and they were both very charismatic. And they just like, oh, Steve's gonna, Steve B's gonna talk. We went, Steve M's gonna talk, or Vicky and I were like the only two people besides Ellie and our small crew that had like barbecues at their houses. We were like the social people. Vicky would have it at her house. It was nothing to have 30 people at her house. And over here, we'd have, you know what I mean? So we were like a draw to group.
I get it.
We made recovery fun. That we just did stuff. We went to concerts together. We went to Tahoe together.
You guys
We
had a
were
lifelong
gambling
friendship.
together and told crazy stories.
When the last time I was with Steve B, your husband, I was program chair for Band of Brothers convention,
Oh yeah.
and we asked him to share a meeting for us, and he was sick, and I had talked to him in the morning, and I said, don't come if you're sick, if you're not feeling good, and he said, no, I'm showing up. Showed up, and we got to hear him share, and I don't know if that was the last recording, but it was the last time I got to hang out with him, and it meant a lot to me that was like a moment where he showed that he cared more about the program than himself.
He did. He was asked to share the Christmas speaker meeting for our whole group.
Yeah.
And he was sick, and it was December. He passed the next week. And I told him, well, you're on medication. You can't do it. And they called him again and said, we really want to hear you, Steve. And so I said, okay, you tell him you'll do it, but you can't take medication that day. And he goes, okay. So he was so happy. He was so thrilled.
He was sick.
To be able to do that,
Be of service, yeah.
Yeah, to be of service, because, this is our life,
Yeah.
And they gave us our life back, and we made a good life of it. And so he was really, really happy to do that. He was so frail, he was wobbling around up there, but he went and he did that. So he left to give back to,
Yeah, he did. So that was Fears. Just briefly, if you want to touch on any.
Thank you guys for sharing that stuff.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I didn't know if it would bring up too much pain, but I was taught that it's some form of therapy for us to talk about it. I don't know if that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about resentments? Like if you just want to throw out something that really sticks with you, like in either in early recovery or even now.
You know what? I just feel so very blessed that I don't have to carry around any resentments. I just don't no more. I've worked it out to that I don't have to have them. If there's a resentment that comes up, which would be something very minor, I guess if I have to say there's a resentment, I'm just going to say the way that our country is now. But that's
present day. Yeah.
The present day, yeah. But early on recovery, there was a lot of resentments, and I think many of my resentments could have come through my expectations.
Yeah.
I did it for you, then why aren't you doing it for me?
Yeah.
So, but I've processed that out, and so I don't try to walk around with any expectations anymore.
I believe that today.
Yeah.
Yeah. But early recovery is different.
Early recovery was really different. I mean,
Keeping score.
Yeah, keeping score, keeping tabs. That was exactly what was happening. But you know what? That's like overload. That's too much work.
Yeah.
I don't have time for today. So you know what? I just I think one of the readings, it might have been in the SPAD this morning, where it just talked about, we just know it's going to be okay. And early on, we were in a women's group with Katie, and remember she used to make those fried chicken wings and stuff. And I asked her, how do you pray, Katie? How do you pray? And she says, I pray in the knowing. I go in the knowing. She goes, yeah, girl. She goes, I know it's going to be okay. Whatever's going to happen is going to be okay. And so I've been living with that, And so when I read that this morning, that I know it's going to be okay, then it is.
That's pretty cool. What about resentments for you, Mrs. M?
Well, I don't like to relive things that I didn't.
Do you remember one?
Oh, I have several. I don't like to admit it that I hold on to
Current
stuff.
ones? Nice.
They never have gone away. It's the same stuff, different person or different time, but it's the same stuff.
Yeah.
It's the same like expectations of somebody treating me a certain way or making me look at me like it's their fault. But
Look what you made me feel.
Yeah, I don't like to feel like a bitch. And sometimes I feel people put me in the position that I feel like a bitch, and they don't even know that they're doing it.
When you say feel like a bitch, like you feel like you're being an asshole, or you feel like you're being demeaned? Like you're getting punked?
No. How do I explain it without...
Without
I
dropping
don't like
names and
sometimes,
stuff?
yeah, certain people in my life that I feel I'm treated a certain way, and I don't like it, but I feel like I'd be a total bitch if I told them that I didn't like it, because it's like, what purpose would it be? It would just make things worse. I don't want things to be worse. I want everybody to get along.
You know
I
what?
want myself to get along.
That sounds like discernment.
Yeah, it sounds healthy.
That's a good thing.
Sounds
right?
healthy.
Well,
Discernment.
there's two people in my life that I would love to change. There's, I don't have the power to change them.
Yeah.
And I think, God bless them, they don't know. They don't even know. They
So
don't
that's-
know that bugs, the things that
When
they
you
do
say you don't
bug
want
me.
to tell them,
No, I don't want to hurt. I don't want to
Yeah,
hurt them. I
so-
don't want to make our relationship even more.
you can set the
strained.
boundary though, right?
I do. I've gotten much better. There's not an avoidance that goes on. There's just, I don't go out of my way.
Okay. Yeah, that
I don't
sounds
go out
healthy.
of my way. I'm very cordial. I love both of them very, very much, but I can't,
When you're not around them, it still gets at you.
yeah, it can come up in my head. And I wish I didn't have that. I don't like confrontation. I don't like not getting along with people, but the truth of the matter is everybody's different. Everybody had their own upbringing.
We're not going to get along with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
and-
I have quite a bit of that too. I think it's healthy.
Yeah, I'm fortunate. It's just two people, and I feel like
Yeah.
I'm totally honest.
Yeah. I'm down to 1, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. I was at 2, but I'm down to 1. Just
yeah,
throwing
and
that
I
out
know
there.
Vicki probably knows
I do.
who they are, but
I've got a couple.
But I just
Don't share them.
No, I'm not. It's
no,
okay.
and the whole and
It changes. People rotate in and out.
yeah, I've prayed for them. I've done the 90-day prayer, and I've done all of
Jesus.
that. But
That's
it's
what
just
Steve
the
said to me.
He gave.
I was waiting. The first things that he told me to do when I was when I was divorced from my ex-wife and she was causing all this chaos, he told me to pray for her for 30 days.
30.
Yeah, and for 28 days I cussed him out every morning, and then on the 28th day I figured it out. It's like if good things happen for her, then she'll stop being
Yeah.
a bad person to me.
I think
I want her to be happy.
I think for me, like I don't feel like it doesn't feel like resentment to me because it's become more of an opportunity to practice compassion. Like it'll come up and I'll be like, all right, they're going through it, or that's the best they can do, and it has nothing to do with me.
It's not personal.
Or, yeah, unconditional love,
what Steve taught
compassion.
me.
Yeah, and I don't want harm to come to the people at
Right.
all. It's just that and one of them had me getting into self-doubt. I had to look at myself and say, am I doing something wrong? And I had
good.
to forgive myself, I guess.
Yeah.
Forgive myself because I never intentionally ever wanted to do anything. But it was that person's own defects of character. I had to look at it because sometimes it's not always our fault,
Right.
and I really had to take a look at myself and forgive myself and question myself, ask my friends, am I that person? And of course I have a lot of co-signers. No, it's her loss and stuff like that I got, but it still really hurts me. I wish things were different, but
You accept him for how it is now?
I'm getting closer to acceptance.
Are you still trying to?
I have a lot of faith.
Yeah.
I have a lot of faith that things are going to be okay eventually. I had expectations that it would happen quicker,
But it's just and I'm not the only one, so it's not,
Yeah.
I can't really personalize it.
I have my first sponsor. I would say, I think things are going to be okay. He would always say, "No, they already are."
Oh,
And
yeah.
that helps a lot for me. That's something I remember a lot.
Yeah.
I really like that 30-day prayer. And when I share that with, other people with the sponsee or whatever, I always say, when you're praying for them, it's in a circle because you're praying for yourself too. You're taking, the sting away from yourself, And I really like that because that's how I'm going to pray.
It makes the prayer a little bit deeper, probably.
Yeah, because and I remember one of my friends said, "Man, I don't want to pray for him." And I said, and I said, "But you know what? You're really praying for yourself, And that's one of our dear friends that I said that to. And then he came back and he said, "Vic, thanks, man." He goes, "That really helped,
Yeah.
So so I feel like if we turn it around, we turn our perception around, that really helps. The affirmation.
I agree with you. Yeah, the resentments, like for me at least, the resentments fall away once I change the perspective to compassion and empathy.
It makes space for surrender too.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
have a
like
question.
what my husband said, like when, when we had that last visit with the doctor, and basically they were saying, you guys are done. You're done. I'm sorry, Mr. Berge, but, the time is up here, And then they asked him, and he goes, "Oh, well, so what do you think? What do you think about, what we've just said?" And he turned around, and he was frail, and he turned around in his little chair, and he said, "This is an opportunity for spiritual growth." And that's what our opportunities are here, by turning it around. When he said that, I thought, oh my God, but that's the absolute
That's the kind of
truth.
guy he is.
Yeah.
Was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think a lot. I think about my compadre a lot. I have loved him, adore him. He's my second man, other than my sons. And I think about them both, and I think about, just sitting here today and thinking about, Vicki and I met in the same recovery house and we were in the same recovery house as our husbands were in. Me and my compadre and my husband would stand up, at a convention because, for 3 months we had the same time, and we'd stand up there and raise our hand up for time. It was just, we were so proud. We'd just stand like this, And then I thought, like all these years later, we've had so much fun, so much journey. They baptized my son, my Dustin, graciously, he says I'm his godmother. I just adore that. And
Wow.
And they both left this earth with cancer. And I don't know that I've said this to you before, Vicki, but when you mentioned Steve's name in Compa's obituary, that's forever imprinted in my heart and in my kids' hearts. I want you to know that. I love you very much.
Well, we should pause and cry for a little bit.
You didn't want to do them together, dude. This is great.
This is really hard. I'm sure it's hard for us.
Do you guys want to take a break?
Okay.
All right, we're back. These guys are trying to convince me off air to watch Titanic and some other love.
The Painted Veil,
Yeah,
dude.
well, I pass. So I have some questions that let's see. What consequences from past wrongdoings are you living with today? I got this out of some step working stuff. So like a lot of people have like, I remember when Steve was going through his Hep C treatments and stuff, and that was part of the consequences that he talked about. Oh, at least with me. Can you think of any? Vicky B?
Hep C for all of us.
Yeah. We all
We
had
all
it.
went through the treatment
Yeah.
around
I
the
didn't
same
know
time.
you all did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did everything together.
Stop it.
We even back in the day when we couldn't afford it, the first conventions, the four of us literally shared rooms. The rooms, two queen beds next
Yeah.
to each other.
Yeah.
That's how close we were.
Early conventions. Yeah, we all did that.
And
Did-
we even brought a newcomer in.
Oh yeah, and then we kicked him out. That's terrible.
Yeah, well, you know what? The Hep C. So I remember like when it first started showing up, and I couldn't believe because Steve's sponsor, Hank, in LA, got Hep C, and he had a lot of time clean, and I couldn't believe that after all those years, him being clean, that he got it. You know, and at that time they were giving the
Like he contracted it while he was clean?
yeah, all those years later. Well, it probably lived within him.
It just wasn't dormant. Dormant. Yeah, it wasn't active.
It was dormant.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but he had like a lot of years clean, you know, and like he would probably have like 55 years clean if he was still alive
Hank,
now.
yeah.
Yeah. And so, anyways, and then he took the what was that first medication that came out that was just made
Oh, I remember.
really
Uh,
sick.
Yeah.
Interferon, or what was it called?
Interferon, right?
Yeah.
The interferon, and it just, you know, was just awful. And I thought, man, I don't care if I have Hep C or not, I'm not taking that stuff. And so, and at that time, when of course I went and had myself tested, and they wanted to, you know, put me on interferon, but I wouldn't because by this time my brother had it also, and it turned him upside down. I mean, it was really bad. And so I wouldn't take it. But then they came out with the Harvoni, you know, and I took the Harvoni, and I think I took 8 weeks, 12 weeks of that. And it was like they said, don't lose this medication. It's $1,000 a pill.
Yeah.
You know, and I took it, and I've been cleared ever since. So that was one of the consequences. And one of the other bigger consequences of having that is I remember when I had Stevie, you know, I had to tell him that, you know, that I had Hep C, and, you know,
Does it get passed down?
I don't know if it does or if it doesn't, but I had to, you know, convey that to him that he may have that at some point. And I just felt so regretful.
Oh, that would be shame and guilt,
you
right
know,
there.
yes,
Yeah.
you know, and so the consequences, I guess that could be the biggest one, because anything else that I did when I was using, you know, that's just my tapestry. You know what? And I just have to say, I have a beautiful tapestry that without any of those flaws that were in my life, I wouldn't be who I am today.
I agree.
And I'm really, really happy with my life.
You're an amazing person. You should
You
be.
know, I mean, of course, you know, is it pain free? Absolutely not. You know, lots of love, you know, lots of kindness, lots of gentleness, you know, and lots of pain, you know. So, but you know, the Harvoni, I mean, not the Harvoni, but the
Hep C.
The Hep C, yeah.
And was that the same for you?
No regrets or consequences?
Yeah, consequences of, you know, your past.
Just, I think not being there for my family when I was out there using. Do you know what I mean? That kind of
That's kind of like a regret, maybe, but
Yeah,
like a
regret.
consequence would be like the Hep C.
Hep C, and
A lot of people go, well, I did, you know, I was down in prison with 10 years or, you know,
oh,
consequences from
yeah,
your
I
past.
just have more regrets. I just have regrets. I don't really have consequences.
That you live with today?
Oh, no.
All right. Well, some people
can't
have
think
like
of any.
felonies that follow them throughout their
Yeah,
life.
that'd be
you know,
mine.
Felonies.
Parole stuff, and then you know, getting my contractor's license was an interesting process. And then
Because of the felonies?
yeah, and then trying to get pardons and expungements and hiring the attorneys and all the stuff involved in that too. And
Yeah.
You know what, that happened to me. You know, I worked at the bank, so
We worked together.
Yeah, we worked together at the bank, and
You guys did
sounds
everything
about
together.
right. Yeah.
and we were doing mortgages. And I remember one day they
Banks let you do mortgages?
well, what
Listen to
happened
this
is, so like I didn't see that question, have you committed a felony? So I didn't answer it, you know? So like 5 years later, they come and my boss tells me that HR wants to talk to me, that they have a special project that they want me to work on. I'm like, oh, okay, you know? So I go in there into the conference room, and they told me that they got my fingerprints back all these years later. You know, I was a check writer, you know, and I had these felonies. So they said, but you know, you've been here for 5 years. And so I'm like, oh my God, am I going to lose my job? Well, they fought for me, so I got to keep my job. But in that moment, when they told me that, I had like 5 years clean already. So it pushed me to, you know, go and get my record expunged, you know. At that moment when she said that, you know, I was in this conference room and I just had a visualization of being at a convention with all these people saying, you can do this. You're okay. You know, that was just like such an awakening, a spiritual awakening for me, you know. So if there was a consequence at that time, you know, I had to do that, you know, I had to stand up to that. And so I left the bank, you know, after another 5 years. I worked there for 10 years. Now they pay me a little pension. But I went on to another job, and I answered that question. And they fought for me to come in, you know, because I'd been clean already, you know, 10 years.
Had you gotten it expunged yet?
I got it expunged, and I explained the whole everything. And I went to a union job, so you know they had to pass it through the union. And
Did you follow her to this new job?
No.
She came where I was working.
If you
Yeah.
Oh
Yes.
wait, you went to where she was working?
I went to where she was
So
working.
you followed her.
I followed her. Yes, I always followed her.
Jeez, you guys.
And just so that you know, for the record, I always wanted her to be my sponsor, but she never wanted to be.
So did she keep saying no?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
funny. So Tony, you know
Oh, yeah,
Tony
yeah, yeah.
R.
Anthony?
Yeah.
Ice cream?
Yes. He dogged me for at least a year, and I kept telling him no because I'd known him since he was
Baby.
young, and it was too personal. We were friends.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Okay, well, you don't have to be my sponsor, but I'm going to read you my steps, and then I'm going to call you every time I need some advice or whatever." And I go, well, "That's exactly what a sponsor is." And I said no, and he goes, "I don't care. I'm going to do it anyways." So I've been sponsoring him against my will because I told him no
For how long?
for like I don't know, 12 years or something.
That's funny.
Yeah, at least 12 years. Anyways, so we covered like fears and consequences, and what about reservations? If you could think of like one reservation, if this happens, I'm going to get loaded. What would you think of, Vicky B?
You know, and I can't think of that because, like, you know, early on people would say if your your mom or dad die, you know, I'm gonna get loaded. You know, if your son dies, if your husband died, you know, they've all died. All my brothers have died since I've been
But
here.
at the time, in the beginning, did you think maybe?
I don't know that
Hard
I
to say.
thought it. Yeah, it's hard to say. You know, when I had 7 years clean, I lost my first brother. You know, he committed suicide. You know, put a gun to his head. You know, it was difficult, but but I stayed clean. You know, I stayed clean. So, but I guess if I had to say something, I may have thought if I lost any of my children, which I did. I lost my son.
Mm-hmm.
But but I'll tell you, you know what? So when I save my cards, you know, I mean, I saved a lot of my cards, you know, and I remember when my son passed away, I thought I was putting my sympathy cards away, and I thought, oh my God, I know I have a card for my son. I know I have a card. So I was digging through all my cards, and I found a card, and it said, "Thank you, Mama, for staying clean and changing the lives that me and my siblings could have led." You know?
Wow.
And if nothing else, I will have to say, I'll never take anything, you know, because will always honor that, you know.
That's pretty heavy.
So, yeah. So, but I think there's nothing. I mean, the biggest losses in my life have happened, and I think I'm going to go out the way my husband and my compadre went out.
Clean. Yeah, clean. Reservations. Do you remember any in early recovery?
No, when I was in early recovery.
Vicki M?
Yes, early recovery. I probably had passing thoughts of like not using, but like, how am I going to handle it? Questioning on how I would handle it. But I always felt from the beginning, from seeing my predecessors go through things and lost, that if they could do it, I could do it. And then I always felt like now, especially if something was to happen, God, please don't, my, like my son, I'd want to be there for my granddaughters. Mm. Do you know what I mean? And
I do.
And for Steve, I need to be there for the rest of the family. I just feel like not an obligation, but I just feel like another purpose, or it's my responsibility to him.
Yeah.
And we always say to honor them. To honor them, I would not. I just would not. So I know I don't have any reservations.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I was just thinking in my head, I'm listening to you, and I hear the plate, and it just, to me right now, I feel really good just sitting at this table. It feels like we're having, we're breaking bread, sharing a meal, and just shooting the shit. And I feel really good about that.
Me too.
The camaraderie that we share. All right, this is most people's favorite part to talk about. I'm being sarcastic. Oh, because it's assets. I think, or I feel, at least for me, enough clean time or significant amount of clean time and a lot of work on our steps and everything, that we are pretty comfortable talking about our assets at this point.
Yeah.
Vicki B?
Yeah. So when I think about assets, the first thing I thought was about like money, but that's not it. So
No, that's not it.
but yeah, you know what I feel, I don't feel. I have a lot of assets, and so I have a good life. I'm healthy. I have a lot of love. I have empathy. I have compassion. I have integrity. I walk a good life. I have a good life. I share a good life with others. And I have a lot of laughter. I have a lot of joy. I have a lot of peace. I have a great fellowship.
That's a big asset.
Yeah, big asset. Big asset. And I have beautiful friends. That one right there. Oh my God. Yeah.
When I look back on Steve B and Steve M, watching them through the years, what I really, really liked about your husband was his sense of humor. Like, you never met him, but he had what happened to his arm?
I went through a meat grinder. He used to be a butcher.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he had a hook on it.
Oh, yeah.
At one time.
And he would follow Steve M around and like take his hook and goose him as he's walking away. I thought it was so cool that he has that sense of humor.
You never knew that he really had that one arm. I mean, it was visible, but he did everything.
Oh, yeah.
Did everything,
He would take a turkey and flap that thing over it.
With his hook, yeah.
He played baseball, played football, yeah.
Mow the lawn.
It did not slow him down,
it
for
up.
sure.
It didn't.
Yeah. Okay, Vicki M, what about your assets? Yeah.
My family and my friends, my husband, 40 years of marriage. I feel like
So what would like the asset be, like loyalty or dedication? Because
all of that,
trust, good one.
I learned and I acquired, I guess, assets, like in trusting people, my husband especially, ability to be a student, like
Humility.
yeah, growing up, we grew up together. That's huge. We grew up together, and I just learned so much about myself being in a long-term relationship, and my assets, my children, my son, my grandkids, my stepdaughters. That was huge.
Assets like you have compassion.
Yeah,
I think I have a lot of compassion.
so maybe like
I think.
I want to say
do.
spiritual principle.
the application of the holding of principles, like the carrying of principles, like
Compassion, empathy.
yeah, I'm loving, I'm caring, I'm intelligent, I'm strong, I'm
both
consistent.
both of you are, in that area where if we look at, your husband's passing and watched, like, it was painful, very painful, and watch both of you go through that. Everybody around you saw all your assets come out, like your integrity and your
I think it's
Fortitude.
It's responsibility. We knew who our husbands were.
Yeah.
If nobody else did, we knew. We knew we were very lucky before their passing, before they got sick. We knew we were lucky because we
We used to always say that, remember?
Yeah, we knew. We didn't. We weren't. What's the word I want? Ignorant to the fact that we had good guys.
yeah.
We knew we had good guys.
Well, I think there's this one more question that Josh and I usually ask, and I don't know if you have any of these stories, but we'd like to hear, like, I think we covered a lot, but do you have like one story that you have from either like you're getting loaded, some crazy story, or early recovery or whatever that you
something
can
really
share?
fucked up that stands out.
Yeah,
Oh,
or funny.
I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, let
I
her
have
go
a lot
first.
of them. I always share them with my girlfriends when it's girl time, and they all like look at me like I'm crazy. And then she's one of my
I've heard a
biggest.
few of your stories.
Right. Well, this one is. I can't believe I did this, but this is how messed up my thinking was. Is I was a bridesmaid in. Should I keep going? I was a bridesmaid.
Let's see. All right, well, we're talking about the story.
Bridesmaids.
Yes, bridesmaid. Vicky M.
Okay, I must have only been like maybe 19. I was 19. I was asked to be a bridesmaid in Margie's wedding. I didn't show up for practice. I didn't show up for anything. So I showed up for the day of the wedding, and I had my
So you were a
dress
good
on, but I was
bridesmaid.
late. I was late. And I got attitude by everybody. I don't know what I was loaded on. I was just out of it. And I thought, what is their problem? So I went to the church part, went down the aisle, got in my car, and I said, screw them. And I drove off, and I didn't go to the reception. Well, needless to say, she would never talk to me again.
No pictures.
No pictures.
But you did stay in the ceremony?
I went to the ceremony, and then I got an attitude because they were all looking at me because I was so loaded. And I thought, screw them. I don't need this. And so I didn't go to the reception or anything.
Okay.
So she didn't talk to me for years. And when I got clean, I tried to call her and make an amends. She didn't believe me.
Yeah, does she believe you now?
I can't find her.
Oh.
It's one of those things. And then I had another one. Oh, I have a lot of them. I went down to LA once with the paying customer, and I hate Maserati's, the music, and
You hate?
That's like the little
Yes.
like they show up and all of them play a band in a random spot. That's
yeah, and these guys
loud.
were dealers in LA.
Okay. Mariachi band and they were
And if
dealers.
they would, and I shouldn't have even been there because they didn't really like. Since I had tracks and everything, I was like a liability, and this guy brought me there, and I shouldn't have been there. But, yeah, I rolled myself up in a carpet behind a couch
What? Wait,
because
what?
I didn't want anybody to touch me anymore.
You rolled yourself up in a
In a
carpet.
carpet. There was a carpet,
Uh-huh.
and I pulled it behind the couch, and I don't know, somehow I rolled myself up there, and I hid like for the day. That's kind of a stupid story. That's a stupid story.
No, it stood out for you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then the last one is,
What about the Reno trip with your mom?
oh God, so many stories. I thought, out of guilt, I went to Reno with my mom and her work in a bus.
I got sick at the first bus stop, at the first place we stopped.
Really?
I was kicking the back of the, because my bones started hurting, and I was kicking the back of the bus things. And when we got to the hotel room, I was hallucinating, and my mom wanted to call my dad or call an ambulance or something, and I was cussing her out. That's not a funny one. I had a lot of bad ones actually. The one about I hid some dope. Remember you put the garbage bag, just a bag in a garbage can, and you rolled the top of it because they didn't have the garbage bags. So we used to think we were so smart where we hid our drugs, and I hid them under there. Well,
In the roll. Yeah.
I heard the garbage trucks, and all of a sudden I was like, oh shit, I had taken out the garbage, and I had forgotten.
The garbage man took your dope?
Yeah. So my old man at the time woke up, and I told him, and he was furious.
Did he chase the garbage truck down?
We did. We drove up, and we said we threw away an important check. We were talking to the guy. I remember we went all the way to the dumps, and the guy was experienced. He knew each block, which where the garbage was, and we found it.
You're kidding.
No.
Way to chase your bag, huh?
Kind of crazy, just crazy stories
Those
like
are
that.
good.
But that's it.
Vicky P.
Well, I have a story that was kind of like heartbreaking, but at the moment. So my daughter she was like 13, and she was in the hospital, and she was having her tonsils out. And, I went to the hospital to go see her, and she looks at me and she goes, "Get out of here. You're nothing but a heroin addict. I don't want you here." She was 13,
Shit, wow.
Yeah, and a lot of anger and resentment with her, that whole childhood thing was crazy. But when she got married, I asked her, I was clean, and I asked her, what can I do for you? What can I do? She goes, "Your job is to be the most beautiful woman there." And so that, I think about like from when she kicked me out of the hospital room to wedding day, how that changed for her. But the changes came through, Narcotics Anonymous and living the life here.
That's pretty profound.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing, like with when I first got clean, I told all of my kids that I would, if they ever wanted to go to therapy, that I would go to therapy with them. And
that's insightful.
And because I knew I did a lot of damage, so my daughter, we went to therapy one time, just once, and I wanted to go to therapy with her because when I had Stevie, she felt like she was the mom of, and it was kind of crazy. So we went to therapy once, and then my oldest son said he never wanted to go to therapy because he was afraid if we did that we would never, talk, but we wouldn't talk because when I went to therapy I went to therapy for myself, for my mom, and I didn't talk to my mom for a year. So, and I said, "But that's my story, son. That's not yours." So I don't know, a couple of years later, he says he wants to go to therapy. And I'm like, oh, shit, like, I was like really scared. But, I had made a commitment. And so we went. And we went to the therapist a couple of times. And the therapist says, "I've never seen a mom and son so in love. So in love with my son." And then my other son, the gay son, he said, and I was just mean because I wasn't accepting that he was gay when I knew from the gate, pretty much from the gate that he was gay, and, but I used to, tell him, don't try to wear my dresses. And, I was mean, because I wasn't in acceptance. And his father used to say, "He got that from your side." And it was just very shaming. So when I told my son to let, if you ever want to go to therapy, he said, "I never remember anything, Mom, other than you loving me so much." and I was just like blown away with that, because I know what I did, And so now he's going to be 55 and he still calls me mommy. He adores me. They all do. So,
What a great turnaround for you.
Yes,
Huh?
absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
My stories.
yeah, I know you have a bunch of
I
stories.
love you.
No, I said I don't like my story.
Oh, just by the way, we're gonna be out is it June at the convention in Southern Utah? I think it's June, and we're gonna record an episode with Roseanne.
I thought so.
Yeah, so I look forward to that. Well, that's all the questions from me. Josh, you got anything?
No, I'm grateful to be here. It's always nice to do a podcast with people that have so much recovery, so much experience, so much. I just like to soak it up. It's cool. Yeah.
This is special for me.
You take my stories out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You want me to cut your stories out? Vicky M thinks he's funny. No, we're all good. We're gonna leave them in because they're important because it made you feel something, right?
No.
Killing me. Well, we appreciate.
I feel nothing. Keep them out.
We appreciate everybody. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you so much.
Vicky.
Yeah, thank you guys for
Thank you, guys.
participating.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you,
a bunch of
Josh.
thank yous, and we're good.
Oh, let me just give a shout out real
Yes,
quick.
please.
Shout out to Pure Love. That's it.
Nice.
Josh.
Right on. Thank you.
Yeah.
That is very cool.
And namaste.
Yes, namaste. If our listeners want to catch another podcast other than the 4-Step, there's always the Anonymous podcast and the Living Clean podcast. Some friends of ours. So,
They're on all platforms.
yes, as well as us. So we thank you for your time. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. Often you will hear addicts referring to a specific 12-step program or rehab. These are personal stories. We do not represent any of the programs.